First and foremost, thank you so much, Ambassador Hammad, for creating time to talk to us about this extraordinary topic regarding the Youth Innovation Challenge on Democracy and Governance in Africa. Ambassador Salah Ahmad is the head of the African Governance Platform Secretariat and the head of the Human Rights and Transitional Justice Unity within the Department of Political Affairs for the African Union Commission. For the past 25 years, he has dedicated his life to the world development and human rights. It is a pleasure to have you with us today, Ambassador Saleh.
Thank you very much for having me this afternoon. I'm delighted uh, to be interviewed by you and your colleagues, and certainly I'm here to answer all the questions that you have.
Hello. Thank you as well for being here with us. My name is Beatriz. I'm a first year student of global governance, and I'm from Brazil. And I would like to know if you, Ambassador, could explain a bit more about your career, about your job.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Salah Hammad. I'm an African born in Sudan, and when I say Sudan, I mean by the big Sudan, not the Sudan North or South, because I have my mother is from the south and my father is from the north. So I'm from the big Sudan, if I can call it that way, the united one before the separation. But in any case, I studied law and political science in the United States, where I was living for a very long time before moving back to Africa. And the reason for moving back to Africa is very simple. In fact, it's basically to dedicate my career and myself to be part of the campaign to build the Africa we want, the Africa we deserve. I joined the African Union almost 12 years ago. But before that, when I was in the United States, I used to work for an organization called Migration and Refugee Services, which is one of the organizations of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. And the organization was dealing with the resettlement of refugees in the U.S. Another opportunity for me to serve the refugee population that was resettled in the United States, and then after that I moved to Africa. I began my career with the African Union as a human rights expert before I became in charge of the unit that is in charge of human rights and transitional justice, and now along that portfolio I also deal with a new portfolio which is the Secretariat of the African Governance Architecture and the African Peace and Security Architecture, which is called AGA-APSA Secretariat. This secretariat is mandated to prevent conflict from happening in Africa through the promotion of good governance, democracy, and rule of law, and also to address issues related to transitional justice, rule of law, and constitutionalism, as well as elections. So through this career, I have learned that Africa certainly is the future, and that there's much to be done to pave the way for an Africa, for building an Africa that is better for all of us as Africans, not only for generations to come, but in fact for the people that are currently being in Africa as well. So, with that, I once again believe that collectively as Africans we will be able to make that change.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for the intro. I think especially as an African student, especially originally from Rwanda, studying global governance, I think this is a great opportunity to have you with us today, mainly regarding these topics of youth engagement, youth empowerment. I think this is already a great opportunity that we are having today, and there is a lot that have been done. and there is still a lot to be done. So I would like to know regarding the point of Agenda 2063 and the role of youth in its implementation. I'd like to hear from you about what is the AU or the African Union agenda of 2063.
The African Union Agenda 2063 is a shared framework for inclusive growth and sustainable development for Africa to be realized within the next 50 years. Now, almost 10 years elapsed, so we are left with about 40 years to achieve this goal, or maybe 41 years. The main goal of this Agenda 2063 is to focus on a number of pillars of projects or aspirations that could bring all Africans together to collectively build the Africa that we want. The Africa that is well developed, the Africa that is united, prosperous, and peaceful. And of course, an Africa that is that belongs to all Africans without any discrimination or without any separation. An Africa that is inclusive of respecting all African citizens. Not only that, but also an Africa that is open to the world, to the international community, an active member in the international community. We know that because of colonialism, Africa was not very active for many years in building the Nations, the Security Council, and other international organizations, and we joined them after independence almost 50 years ago. So therefore, we believe now Africa as an independent continent has a bigger role to play in the international community by sharing our African shared values, our African jurisprudence, our African contribution to make the world a better place, a peaceful place for all human beings to live together, free of conflicts, free of genocides, free of war, and of course, free of violating each other's human rights. So this is basically what Agenda 2063 is all about. But also to conclude, let me also say that Agenda 2063 is not only to focus on infrastructure, but it's also to focus, in fact, in the building of the human beings, the African citizens, by availing education, social systems, health systems that will support the African citizens to also have a better life to live.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for the answer. I think it's quite surprising and promising to see after 10 years what have been done so far. There is a great, I would say that there is great start, and it's really promising. As the youth, I think there is a significant lighting progress that we can see after 10 years. So, which really takes me to this point regarding strengthening this continental platform, which is being introduced by the African Union initiatives. As a youth or an African or the citizen, the global citizen, we would ask ourselves, like, what is it that the youth and Africa's future should expect from the African Union platform? But also, at what level do youth engagement will contribute to the implementation of the African Union Agenda 2063?
Well, let me say this. As we all know that the African youth, they are about 65% of the African population. Africa is a very young and very youthful continent. And since the youth constitute 65%, that means they are the majority of the African population. And because they are the majority of the African population, or the population in Africa, certainly they have a very big role to play. I personally am not very supportive of the expression that youth are the leaders of tomorrow. In fact, youth are supposed to be the leaders of today and the leaders of tomorrow. And with that, the African youth, they have a very, very huge role to play in building this continent. Now, if there is any armed conflict in any part of Africa, who is going to carry the guns? It's not the elderly leaders that are leading from hotels and from offices. Who will be carrying the guns are the youth. Why? Because of lack of education, because of lack of employment. So youth are becoming instead of becoming agents for change, they are misused to become agents of violence, agents of killing and destruction. So now we need to change that mentality or that mindset of the youth to allow them to lead in each and every level and in each and every sector that they are part of. And leading, not necessarily meaning that you are a politician or you are a member of parliament or you are a minister or you are a president, but leading means that you are doing what you're supposed to do in the sector that you are responsible for, in the job that you are involved in, to make positive impact that will change the lives of people around you in the community, in the society, the community, and in the country. And of course, that will lead to changing the lives of African people at the continental level. So as a result, and as part of this development of the AU Agenda 2063, the African Union invented what is known as YES, YES, the Youth Engagement Strategy. So the Youth Engagement Strategy focuses on a number of issues. Number one, it delivers programs at the national level on rights and duties of youth. So then the youth will be equipped with the know-how, with the knowledge that they need to understand their rights and obligations as African citizens. Another pillar is to prepare leadership in political or governance affairs. And here we managed to undertake a number of programs and activities at the national level that resulted in allowing youth to be part of the governance affairs. We recommended to our African leaders that they need to allow youth to become ministers, youth to become members of parliament, youth to become members of political youth in political parties. And the list is long. And we've been working on that to expand the circle of the participation of youth at all levels. Let me give you one quick example. In Nigeria, 2-3 years ago, you cannot vote unless you are 24 years old. You cannot run for an office unless you are 20. You are not unless you are 35 years old. You cannot run for presidency in Nigeria unless you are 45 years old. So we launched a campaign with the support of local youth in Nigeria. The campaign is known as Not Too Young to Run. The campaign resulted in amending the constitution of Nigeria. So now you can run at the age of 18, you can vote at the age of 18, you can become a member of parliament at the age of 18. As a result, the voter registration in Nigeria increased from 18 million to 86 million. 86 million now can participate and vote in the election of Nigeria. We are doing similar things in Ghana, in Sudan, now also in Ethiopia and elsewhere. Our hope that slowly we will be able to equip the youth with the knowledge, the skills that they have, so they can be part of this initiative of becoming leaders wherever they are, to build the Africa that we want, the Africa that is democratic and good and well governed, in fact, by its people.
One of the aspirations of the 2063 agenda concerns gender equality. And even if half of Africa's population is composed of women, men, they are still the vast majority in leadership positions in the public and private sectors. Could you talk about a bit how African Union can help to change this scenario to increase women's representation?
If you read our history, you will find African queens, Queen of Sheba and others, that were in charge of big part of Africa for a very long time. But then in the new Africa, the Africa that is after the colonialism was over, or the colonialism ended, I think was not in favor of having women at leadership positions. But then all of these things changed quickly again, simply because our African shared values are very deeply rooted in our culture and in our social systems. So we came to realize again that our African women, who are the mothers, the wives, the sisters, they are extremely strong and they can absolutely contribute to the stabilization of peace and to the building of good governance and good democracy on the continent. If you look at Africa, we had a number of women presidents, a number of them. We had one in Malawi, we had one in Liberia, and we have now currently one in Ethiopia. I mentioned the example of Rwanda, that 64% of the parliamentarians in Rwanda are females, women. But to do more, the African Union invented this WES, the Women Engagement or the Women Empowerment Strategy. This strategy is meant to, or the main purpose of it is to assist our member states in achieving gender equality. And when we are talking about gender equality, we are not only talking about fair share or equal representation. We are in fact talking about even availing the environments that are very conducive for women participation. Environments that are free of sexual harassment, environments that are free of any violence against women, domestic or any type of violence. An environment where women could really contribute to the economy, to the political system, to the governance system, and contribute to everything as the mothers who are raising generations also, generations that will lead tomorrow. So now if you look at the African Union Commission, at the commission level, we have 10 commissioners. 5 of them are female and 5 of them are males. The African Union 6 years ago had the first female president. Before the UN, before the EU, before ASEAN, before the Inter-American Organization. It was the first international organization to elect a woman president, Madame Zuma, who served as president of the African Union Commission for a term of 4 years. So we are trying now to lead our African countries by example. So at the African Union now we are working very hard to ensure that by 2030, or if not even 2025, we will have 50% male staff, 50% female staff by 2025 at the level of the Commission here. And we hope also, with the support of this strategy, we will encourage our member states to do the same. I mentioned Ethiopia, that it has a female president. Sudan has a Minister of Foreign Affairs, women. Rwanda has a number of women in the ministries and major ministries, in fact. But of course, there is more to be done. There is more to be done. And that is why we are very keen on implementing this women engagement, women empowerment strategy at the national level. Let me conclude by saying this. All of this is done because of our African shared values, because we believe that our African women have the skills, have the ability, have the power to become leaders. And we believe in their leadership. And that is why the West is very supportive of empowering women to become members of parliaments, of executive, of judicial, of the police force, of the military. Women should be availed the opportunity to serve in any sector that she feels that she can contribute through it to building the society, the communities, and of course to building Africa as well.
How the African Union women empowerment strategy are they intending to instigate the young girls and women to chase for the leadership positions and leave those stigmas behind, leave the little walls that we had to cross every day that might put us in the road to avoid those walls?
You have asked a very, very good question, Beatriz. The mindset and the stigma of the young girls, the young African women, and how they could really adapt to the environment where there's a call for them to become leaders and to embrace that leadership opportunity or leadership responsibility. I would say here that is why we are really trying to create leadership among the young women communities. Through leadership, we feel that the change could happen. The road is long, but certainly through collective initiatives and efforts, we will be able to get to get to the point where we can feel comfortable to say this is where we really want it to be. But the road is not going to be free of challenges and free of obstacles. There are so many things to be addressed. Let me just also quickly give you an example. Africa today, Africa is looked at as the poor continent, despite the fact that we have natural resources more than anywhere else. We have youth as assets of this continent more than anywhere else. With all of that, Africa is labeled as a developing, continent or a poor continent. But this poor continent import an equal or a value of $20 billion of beauty supplies every year. $20 billion, mainly from three countries, from China, from Brazil, and from India. When we are talking about beauty supplies, we are talking about human hair, we are talking about nails, we are talking about bleaching creams to change the color of the skins. Why? Because the mindset that was left behind from the colonial era was basically telling the African black women that they are not beautiful unless they bleach their skins to become white. It was telling the African young ladies that with African short hair, they are not beautiful. With African short nails, they are not beautiful. So as a result, Africa is losing $20 billion to three countries in the world. This $20 billion could have supported the education system in Africa. They could have really helped with so many important health, education, and many other systems, social systems. We need now to work on that the black color is beautiful. Black starts with B, and beautiful is also with B. Just like any other color, black is also a beautiful one. So we need to change the mindset. We need to change the mindset for the young girls And the only way we could do it is to create leadership among them.
Thank you for your words. They were really inspirational and thoughtful, obviously. I guess at the end, me being a woman, even though I do not come from Africa, coming from Brazil, I guess there are some very shared situations in life that we daily have to fight against them. And for sure, beauty, it's a hot topic everywhere, I would say. We are every day being forced, and even if we are not aware of this, we are in fact under such a high pressure of the society to fit into the box that we don't have to. We shouldn't. Coming back with the gender equality, it's not a matter of saying that women's they are better than men's and men they are better than women. No, it's actually the opposite of it. We are just recognizing that they are all equal, which is something that it should be recognized by everyone, but it is not still. But that's how we are going to make the change. That's by setting everyone equally, start in the same starting point.
For me as an African, it was not really an easy journey to get to where I am now. And I'm sure there are so many Africans out there who really struggled and went through so many challenges to achieve their goals in life. And that is why I'm one of those who always advise youth not to give up, not to surrender, despite all the challenges that they are going through. I teach at some universities here in Africa in different places, and I see students that are coming to the classroom with the same shirt every day, the same shirt every day, but they end up being the best scholars, the best students, despite all the poverty that they suffer, despite all the needs that they, and the difficulties that they've been through.
Which advice would you give for the young activists that I know that there are so many in Africa, to be heard by the public institutions and so they can come together and work side by side?
If you recall that the economists of the US 20 years ago labeled Africa as the dark continent. And in that article, which was very famous, they said Africa is a dead continent because the people of Africa are lazy and they don't have any ambitions toward a better future. So therefore, Africa will remain underdeveloped as long as Africans are like this. This was 20 years ago. Then 15 years later, the same economist, they came to write another article on the front page to call Africa the rising continent. What is the reason for Africa being the rising continent? It is the youth, men and women. Because now, look at Gisa in Italy. He's studying hard to become a fine man in the future and then return to Africa to build not only Rwanda, but in fact to build the entire continent. I'm sure there are so many colleagues like him in the same class or maybe other classes. We have them also in the US, we have them in China, we have them in Russia. And I'm sure at some point they will return back and take the leadership. So what I'm trying to say in an answer to your question is, the African youth are currently faced by so many challenges, so many obstacles, but they should never give up. They should always try to live a better future by sacrificing all the pain and trying to build characters, to build leaders that will contribute to building the Africa that we want. Without that, Africa will never develop, and Africa will never progress, and Africa will never, ever become peaceful. So therefore, and through you, and through this kind of interviews, we always try to share the message. The message is for the African youth to believe in their objectives as Africans, that they are the agents of change. They are the leaders of today and the leaders of tomorrow. And because of that, they have to stand together and collectively proceed forward, not backward, to build this Africa. This Africa needs its youth by all means. Otherwise, Africa will dive down into genocides, into war, into conflicts, and we will never get out of this hole. We will never get out of these situations to embrace a better future for us as Africans and African people everywhere. So again, it is about, in fact, changing the mindset and preparing the African youth for that leadership role to play, whether they are women or male or females. The African youth, for their voices to be heard, they need to, number one, accept the responsibility of being leaders, prepare themselves to be leaders. And being a leader doesn't mean that you are above the law, doesn't mean that you are above anyone else. But in fact, when you are the leader, you are the servant. You are the one who will go down there to serve the people. This is one. Secondly, there is need to create networks, because divided youth are not heard. United youth could be heard loud and clear. So there is need to create networks. Women and men, young men and women, they should create networks for sharing information and sharing best practices. Number three, there is need to also for our member states to build institutions that will support the young men and women in Africa to participate in the governance affairs. I don't think it will look realistic when a political party establishes a youth wing, but the leader of that youth wing is 65 years old. Youth need to be trusted, because if we don't trust our youth, then our youth will not be given, they will not embrace the responsibility, and they will not be part of the leadership that we really hope for to build the continent that we want. So once again, we need to have programs and policies that will support youth. We need to avail the space for youth to lead at the level of political parties and unions, and we need to create networks that will enable the youth to collectively share information and best practices on how to proceed with building the Africa we want.
It was really an interesting conversation, very inclusive and interactive. Now, I'd like to maybe ask the last question to Ambassador. It's just to cut it short about the African diaspora contributing to the development of the continent, mainly on the Agenda 2063. So, is there any strategy or platform that is created for African diaspora to serve back to the continent? Because like for example, in Europe, for example, or in Italy specifically, we are now having a quite large community of Africans. So I was wondering, of course, plus this one through Fondazione Aurora, which is helping to create or to connect links with we Africans and the opportunities which are on the continent. But also, I'd like to hear from you as the African Union Commissioner. Like, is there any strategic or platforms for the African diasporas that facilitates them to support and contribute to the continent's development or plans? Thank you.
Africa is divided into 5 regions, or distributed into 5 regions: north, south, East, West, and Central. So these are the regions of Africa. But when the Agenda 2063 was adopted in 2015, our heads of state and government adopted a sixth region, region number 6, which is the diaspora. So now the diaspora is region number 6 of Africa. So Africa now officially, politically, according to the decision of our heads of state and government, doesn't have, or it's not, it's not about the 5 regions anymore, but in fact it's about 6 regions now. And what is the reason behind considering the diaspora as the 6th region? Because as Africans or people of African descent that are living abroad, they certainly have so many ties to the continent. They have so many contributions that they could offer to support the development of this continent. So Africa will never give up on its men and women that are living abroad. Even if they don't want to come back, just representing Africa where they are is good enough. Within the commission, we have a department that deals with civil society and diaspora. It's a whole department that deals with civil society and diaspora. And the purpose of this department is to engage diaspora in the affairs of the African Union. So civil society that are representing diaspora are engaged through this department. They can assist them in building capacity, in engaging in investment opportunities, in establishing schools or universities in Africa, different kind of investment projects, different kind of health projects, initiatives, educational programs, and others. So the diaspora will always remain part and parcel of the African continent, and we will always count on the diaspora, the African diaspora. I personally don't like to call them diaspora. I love to call them Africans abroad. I was in the US for 20 years, but finally I came back. So there's always, of course, that a small feeling inside us that will remind us of our ancestors, will remind us of coming back to Africa. So again, Africa welcomes its African sons and daughters that are living abroad to come back anytime they want, or to support the building of the Africa that we want, the Africa that is united, prosperous, and peaceful. And the diaspora or the Africans abroad are always welcome to engage with the African Union and to also engage with member states at the national level. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.